The meeting of the board is now called to order. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome this evening. We'll get started by approving our agenda on page 2. We have an additional action item that administration would like added to designate safety deposit box. And that would become another action item. Any other changes beyond that? Okay then, there's a motion on page 2.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as printed and amended.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We'll get started with our meeting with the superintendent's report.
All right. Thank you, President Van Antwerp, as well as the members of the Portage Public Schools Board of Education. We'd like to start off our first report as it is printed on our agenda with our superintendent's report. I think that is, sorry about that. Give me all my notes together. Here we go. Board recognitions are first. Thank you, Bart, for the reminder. This is Board Appreciation Month, the month of January. Last week at our last session, we approved our officers. So this year, Barb, I have to give all the credit to, helped print some nice packages for us. So I want to present each of you with a token of appreciation on behalf of the school board. There you go. All right. Kimberly?
Yeah.
Whoa. Thank you, sir. If you look at the outside, we have Portage Public Schools logo. It's our president, Rainey.
Thank you, sir.
Terry.
Thank you.
And Mary Lou. All right. In addition to that, next to you, we have just a little token of appreciation. By your legs, we have a little laptop bag. If you want to take a moment and just open up your gift for that.
So nice.
So, not just me personally, but on behalf of all of our employees. Yeah, absolutely. On behalf of our employees, students, staff, parents, we truly appreciate all that you do for our board, as our community, and as we know, we spend a lot of time outside of these meetings with Portage Public Schools business, and we just sincerely just want to thank you for all your work that you do for us. And as one note, I was kind of serving as a model for you all with the laptop bag at a conference, and I got a lot of positive reviews from other superintendents. So.
All right.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next is our bond project update. Our Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Russ Gerber, will talk about our Amberley Elementary update.
Good evening, Board. Superintendent Edwards. I'll give you kind of a quick update on the construction progress at Woodland. Then we'll jump into our Amberley design and construction update as well with members from and OAK here to present that to you guys. But Woodland, Old Man Winters brought the thunder this year, plenty of snow and wind and everything. Construction crews doing a great job trying to move forward as best they can. Things are going well, but we're obviously with the last couple of months of hard winter, we're a little behind schedule, but as we meet with OAK, they kind of assured us that we'll be able to make up time as we move forward. We're adjusting how we do a couple things, so when we hit steel here in about a month or two, we'll be able to catch up during steel with the program that they're able to put together for that. But I'm not worried about it at this time, but winter is hitting us pretty good this year, but you know, they're working through it as best they can, and they'll make it up. I'm positive of that. But you know, as Woodland goes, it's coming along as to be expected with the weather. So, good jump to Amberley. Let these guys come up. You got Doug from Tower Pinkster, and Tom from OAK. They'll kind of give you a brief update on how things are going, looking for Amberley, as well as what we're looking to do in the next couple months here.
Great. Thanks, Russ. Good evening, Superintendent Edwards, Board of Trustees.
That may not be on,
What's that?
right on the side.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. So we're here to provide a design update on the Amberley Elementary project. We've got some building-related content, and then really we'll dive into some site-related content and just share some existing constraints that the design team's been working through and kind of how we've been resolving them to provide the best possible project long-term for Portage Public Schools. So this is just we've got a few intro slides just as a reminder of what we're always constantly keeping in mind as we go through the process. So looking at the educational programs, the environment that we create, and then the overall vision that Portage Public Schools has for these projects, and those are largely that vision is largely guided by the guiding principles that were developed prior to any of the design team members ever getting involved with the projects, but we reference these often as we go through the design process, reference them at the beginning of every design review meeting that we have with district leadership, with district educators. So sharing those as a reminder, and from them develop some Amberley specific design drivers. And with each of these schools, we have a lot of commonality, but then we also work with the students and staff to really understand the environment and the community of that particular school. I think any that have toured will recognize there are similarities. There are also differences. Once you have the opportunity to do the same for Woodland, I believe that you'll experience the same. So just sharing these. Where we've been, we have had past student and staff engagements. We were actually to have a staff engagement last Tuesday. Due to the school closure, we are working to reschedule. So we continue to, as we further the design process and the design evolution, share that with students and staff just for feedback and further involvement. And then early on in the design process that started with Central and Haverhill, as we take the comments and the feedback received during those engagement sessions, we create what we call a design statement that really serves as the overarching path forward for each of the projects. And then our design team leans on that heavily as we proceed through the design process. So then getting to the exciting stuff, the design update. So once we last met with you in, I believe, December, we've continued. This was the kind of an initial party design or floor plan program document that we shared. We've been furthering that with overall floor plan development. You'll see the first floor plan development, as well as second floor, and then we have some 3D axonometric views just showing all the spaces and places within the new Amberley Elementary. So similar to Central, Haverhill, Woodland, these have a lot of the same learning community programmatic components. Obviously Cafe, gym, media center, art. So we're using the previous projects as the guide and informing the future. So this is the axon of the first floor, just so you can kind of see how the overall 3D geometric shape is taking place of the building as a whole. This is the current, in progress second floor plan. And then the second floor axon, just showing the overall development of those spaces. And you'll see that a portion of the building doesn't have programmatic content on the second floor. More showing kind of that roof area. So now the exciting stuff that we want to get into tonight. For anyone that is familiar with the Amberley site, there are existing Portage community water wells on site, and there are easements. There are currently 2 existing, 1 operational, with the opportunity to have a third, and then with easements that we learned of during the project, opportunity for a 4th. So we've been having conversations not only with the district, but as well as the city of Portage throughout the process, just to understand the constraints, both from a restriction from what can be built on them, what cannot be, what sort of access do you need throughout the building, or sorry, throughout the day. They visit the city staff visit these wells often, and I guess all the kids as they're out in playground, they know to avoid any personnel that are there to visit them. Then we started looking at, okay, so we have those bubbled areas, we have these restrictions, we have the existing building, so then that leaves, the northern portion of the site to figure out how we place this building on it, and then coupled with that, the yellow line represents what we've determined to be a new utility path for utilities for the new building. So a little foreshadowing, you'll notice that comes in conflict with some of the existing building. And then Tom, constructability jump in, but we were trying to also, on the previous slide, mentioned a 75-foot separation between new construction, existing construction, both for the ability to construct the building while also protecting the students that will be utilizing the building and the site for the 2.5 ish years of construction. So this.
Yeah, and I guess one thing to add with that 75-foot buffer, that's really to keep a safety zone between the existing school and the constructability of the new building, because we've got to build scaffolding a couple stories high, and so you have to have safety zones so that we can work and access. So we felt that that was a comfortable distance, but what that required, as you see on this here, the north end of the existing school will have to relocate 5 classrooms. And that's being done within the existing footprint of Amberley. So that's been kind of worked through as far as where those kids and teachers are going to teach within the existing footprint. And the idea is that we're going to remove 5 classrooms from that north side there to create that safe buffer zone from a constructability standpoint. And that will take place this summer.
So then you'll also see on this diagram, the northern site preparation area. That's some of the first work that will go just due to the various grading of the sites. If anyone's walked that northern area, it starts to slope down towards those woods quite a bit. So we have to bring in dirt for the new building to be able to raise it up. So, it's not sitting below grade and have any sort of water infiltration concerns. The yellow area, just some construction access throughout the site and around, the new building as it is constructed during, the school year. And making sure that, like Tom mentioned, we're keeping everything very safe distance away from the children. The little red area right directly below that construction area is a relocated playground because a portion of the existing playground is in that either site preparation area or construction access area. And then just showing we're modifying the existing bus loop slightly just to accommodate, the construction access drive and then the area that we need for job trailers, construction laydown areas, so we can safely have materials be available to be installed and constructed, and then the student and parent drop off.
So what Doug's kind of going through is we had to look at this because of the tight constraints on this project. We had to really do this in 4 phases, and so that you're going to see each type of phase as we develop through this, which creates a little bit more bid packages, more scheduling and stuff, but that's where we're kind of walking through the 4 phases of this. So this is that first phase there that will actually start here at the end of March.
And we've got some timeline slides later on to specifically go through that. So in phase 2,
That's what I'm up here for.
phase 2, just expanding that construction access area and getting the new utilities installed and additional laydown areas. The building comes further out of the ground. We have more materials on site to install and construct. Then anything else?
So with this on this phase 2 here, where you see construction access there, this is where we will actually start doing the foundations of the building. As we've kind of moved our fence line down further close to the existing building to the south there, you kind of see that dotted line with the circles there. So the playgrounds have been relocated there, and so we try to create that safe working zone.
And you know that phase 2 will be the phase that we operated for about 2 years. So that's going to be the key phase where that's the next 2 years, school will be operating in phase 2.
Okay, and then Phase 3 is essentially, the building is near complete there. And then this takes place in the June of '28, where we go in and start demoing the existing building there and creating the new parking lots. So very similar to Central. It's going to be very tight, very compacted time schedule standpoint. So a lot will be happening there in the summer of '28. And then finally, for the Phase 4 there, we'll be completing a lot of the landscaping and trees and the plantings and stuff that all has to happen after the building is removed there. So anticipate some of that landscaping stuff going into the fall there. But the idea is to be very similar to Central and demoing that and getting the parking lots in, and hopefully weather cooperates versus what it is doing today. So we're going to keep you busy here over the next 3 to 4 months from a standpoint of a bidding process and looking for board approval. So we've kind of outlined the bid packages that we've got coming out here. Carpenter has completed the drawings for this first phase here, so we'll be going out to bid here very shortly with that. And then, as I had mentioned earlier, we anticipate starting right before spring break there on March 27th. And we'll roll into bid package 2, footings and foundations. Part of the reason of doing this is just from a procurement standpoint. So that's why we kind of broke this out this way. And then bid package 3 will focus on the structural steel components with that. And then the remainder, bid package 4 will be the remainder of the building. So, and the target dates are there listed as far as needing approval. And we'll have the bid recommendations on those dates for you. And then just the project timelines overall for the first 4 phases there. So as I mentioned, first phase 1 is March 27th. Phase 2 is early July of '26. That's the starting the footings and the foundations. Phase 3 is the demo of the old Amberley building, and then again following up with that restoration and the landscaping in Phase 4 for fall of '28. But the idea is that the kids will be in their new building there starting in September of '28. Any
So
general
where are the
questions?
5 classrooms going? Just curious. Would it be in their, like, activity room space or?
So, Amberley Elementary, just so you know, every staff member at Amberley is going to have a space to teach out of, do their thing out of. So there's a multi-purpose room in the back of the building that right now it's used by prime time every day. It's kind of their space. That's the only building in the district that has that prime time space, so we'll be taking that back in terms of the district. We'll be utilizing that as a resource space. We're juggling the resource teachers' rooms, so we'll be taking 3 resource teachers' rooms and making that the first grade teachers' rooms. We also have only 3 sections of kindergarten this year. Seeing that trend, we don't anticipate a 4th section of 4th grade next year, so that we have a room savings there. So we kind of tracked it all out with the principal over at Amberley, Indy, and we got it all, everyone with a spot to go, and we're feeling pretty good that there's not going to be anyone that we don't have a spot for.
So we have 2 city wells now, is that right?
Yeah, there's 2 city wells on
And
site.
how many more can they add? 2 more. And when this project is done, where will they access those wells from?
So if you got a chance to jump back here.
Just for context for the wells, the city has not put out a timeline or guarantee that they will put the new wells in. But if they were to do them, they are already pre-identified because there's a certain radius associated with it.
So this, we're not completely done at drawing every single sidewalk and drive-in, but there will be a way for them to access it. They'll go next to the building, there'll be a drive that goes out to the wells that they can get to. But we have that in mind as part of the design process. We actually have a sidewalk currently that goes from the neighborhood to the east of the school. There's a well, you can see it right there, bottom right, you can see the well, that sidewalk that goes right by it. That'll be basically one of the drives, will be that sidewalk as well, the drive to the well. And then they just drive on the grass to the next well currently.
Where will the playground be ultimately?
Ultimately, the playground will be more situated behind the school.
Like in that green area somewhere? Or?
Yeah, so right there, you see the 2 little orange, light orange? So Yeah, so I'm just gonna jump up here and point.
Or use the laser, I think it's the laser.
Right here's the building, it's not school, and then here's the playground area.
Oh, the lighter orange, okay.
Back to Randy's question about the wells, can you go to the slide that shows the city trucks required daily? I think that'll show better. There you go. That one there. So that's where you can see where the wells would currently are. And then their proposed well would be kind of north center of that top bubble. So kind of vertical and then horizontal along the bottom, ideally. There's a certain radius that they have to have between each other. So if they were to do a future well, that's where one could fall.
I noticed that the gatherings there in the heart is sort of in a different place than it is in the other buildings. Could you just speak to that?
Yeah, so that's all generated from the student and staff feedback of just hearing where, because in Woodland it's the same, or it's similarly in a different spot than where it is in Central and Haverhill. It's where in Central and Haverhill it's more on the public, what we call the public side of the building, and Woodland it's more on the private side. And so similarly with Amberley, as we hear the feedback that guides where, you know, all the various kiddo parts, as we call it, where everything shakes out and ends up. So it's purely from a, you know, that building's culture.
Okay,
And listening to that.
Amberley,
Thank you.
they have a little bit of an advantage. They get to see two completed buildings, one with a bigger heart, one with a smaller heart. And through the process, they like the bigger heart with the ability to do more things with it in terms of larger groups.
I just want to say, I love the 3D floor plans. Thank you.
That helps.
Yep.
And having been in the buildings that are open, it's so much easier to visualize how it's all going to work out after seeing it completed, so.
Appreciate seeing how tight a fit it's going to be and how you're making that work. And I think, I just want to underscore, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the hassle of that tight fit for a couple of years, you got to trade off because there's going to be two big benefits. 'Cause number one, we won't have to relocate Amberley to the old Haverhill for 2 years. They can stay right in their old building. And I think on the schedule, it moves things up a year. Because we don't have to wait for the Haverhill to open up. It gets them there 2 years faster.
Yeah.
So I just want to underscore, and I appreciate folks on that campus, it's going to be tight for a couple of years, but you're going to get the building 2 years faster.
Keep in mind, old Haverhill was servicing 400 kids, not 500 that they have at Amberley. So that's a big, that'd be a big push for that old Haverhill to be able to handle all of Amberley in it. So, you know, it is a best case scenario is that we can build it on site. Small modification to the building. We've made adjustments to where people are going to be. And right now on paper, it seems to work out. We presented those to the staff that are being displaced today. We're talking to the whole staff tomorrow.
And does that not also mean that angling goes faster than it otherwise would have been too? I mean, there's a domino effect.
There's a domino effect, and yeah, we'll be talking about all that here coming February a little bit as well, some more. But yeah, there's definitely a domino effect. We gain a little bit of time by being able to do this one on site.
Thank you, that's great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. And last for the superintendent report is Paula Johnson, our director of finance, to give us a financial report.
Good evening, Board of Ed and Superintendent Edwards. Included in your board packet was a financial report through the month of December, halfway through our fiscal year already. The first page of the report lays things out by function code, and I just want to draw to your attention again, federal revenues appear to be down compared to last year at this time. We're working on approving expenditures at this time through the end of December, and we will request a federal drawdown through the state of Michigan and get that taken care of. Things rolled a lot slower this year in regards to federal funding due to the government shutdown, so it's just a trickle effect of that. So it's a timing difference. Moving down, again, I searched for probably an hour to try to find good things to talk about, new things, and I couldn't find anything new. The operations and maintenance line item, it looks higher than last year because of us spending that 31AA money before the end of September last year so that we wouldn't lose those funds. The central support services area is up slightly, and that's due to costs that were associated with our bond issue that we had last fall, and there's some salary increases coupled into that as well. Page 2 is by object code, and again, that points out that capital outlay. It looks like it's very skewed. That's being corrected in the budget amendment that we're working on right now, so once you approve that February budget, it won't show so well overspent like it is at the moment. The financial report side is pretty boring this time, so I apologize for that, but I do want to cover some highlights from the Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference that happened on January 16th. It was an interesting Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference if you like economics. They always start out and they say, well, our unemployment rate is up slightly to 5.5% and from 5.3, and we predict that it's going to stay that way through 2027. Vehicle sales are down, and as you know, Michigan relies heavily, on the big automakers. So vehicle sales are down 3.7%, but they were contributing that to the fact that electric car incentives expired at the end of September last year. They're projecting that hopefully that the sales will flip around to an increase of 1.3% in fiscal year 27. Because they try to look at 2 years at once when they do the Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference so that you can see beyond just the current year that you're in and you can go 1 year further. They take some time going over the two biggest funds that the state has, the general fund and the state school aid fund. The general fund revenues were revised down $980.5 million, or 2.4%, and that was down since their projections of May of 2025. This is mostly due to tax policy changes that were incorporated into the state budget, but they were passed after the May CREC happened, so they weren't able to incorporate those projections at May. So they adjust themselves at this time around in January. It's also contributed to no tax on overtime or tips and the enhanced retirement exemptions that Governor Whitmer has put into place. A portion of it is also contributed to lower corporate income tax collections and larger individual income tax refunds. They are projecting not only at the end of this year, unless something changes with the general fund, that they will be slightly in the negative, but they're also projecting next year for the general fund for the state of Michigan to also appear in the negative. But we have good news on the state school aid side. The state school aid revenues were adjusted up $201.1 million compared to their forecast. That's a 2.3% increase. They're also projecting that 26-27 will also have a positive adjustment as well. They did bring to our attention that some of the categoricals that the state has set aside money for to pay out in future years, such as the 31AA safety and security and mental health money, the 27L transportation funding, and the Section 29 enrollment stabilization for declining enrollment districts. Those at the current time are going to fall off at different times in future budgets unless the legislatures allocate money to continue those categoricals. You may have seen in the news, the state school aid fund is funded largely by sales tax. And the sales tax associated with gas was going to the state school aid fund until just this past January 1. Now the sales tax from gas is being routed to road funding, and the general fund is sliding $677 million back into the state school aid fund to hold them harmless. I caution the fact that that's going to continue in the future. I would hope so, but you never know what's going to happen while they're negotiating up in Lansing. Also, you probably heard that higher education, the amount of money that they put in for community colleges and universities, it's up for the highest amount I've ever seen it. Back in 2009, they said they were going to loan the universities money from the state school aid fund, and they've just continued to fund higher education out of the state school aid fund since 2009. They did skip 1 year, the 2010-11 school year. They didn't make a contribution, but they have contributed over $11.2 billion over that time frame, has come out of the state school aid fund and gone to higher education instead of students in K through 12. The state also adjusts their enrollment numbers at the Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference, and they overshot their enrollment number for this year. They had to adjust down another 6,000 students statewide from their original May 2025 projection. Overall, the state is down 12,534 students this school year compared to last school year. And they're anticipating for the 26-27 year to lose another 10,100 students. In the year after that, another 10,500 students. So they're projecting a decline in overall state enrollment. As you are aware, there's a certain process that everything, or an order that everything falls in regards to the budgeting process. The governor will present her budget in early May. We don't have an exact date yet. We think it's going to be sometime the first week of May. Excuse me, February. February 25th, she's going to deliver her State of the State address in the evening. From there, the House and the Senate will work on their budget resolutions. Hopefully, we can see something a lot earlier than what we've seen last year. Target, hopefully by early May, they'll go into conference committee and pass a budget by July 1. Fingers crossed, it is an election year, so they're going to want to get out and campaign. So let's hope that they can take care of the budget before they go out to campaign. And next board meeting, we will be bringing in the general fund budget amendment. We're working on that. So any questions?
So revenue is down, that's the prediction.
The general fund revenue is down, but state school aid is up, and the two almost balance each other out.
Yeah. And the school aid fund is in jeopardy because they'll probably borrow something from that.
You never know where they'll look or what they won't fund, so I'm trying to remain optimistic.
Oh, you are. Very
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, interested in the student decline? Do you know offhand how many students in the state? Is it about 1 million? I mean, is this about 1% a year that the state's losing?
I can see the slide that I need to reference right now for you in my mind from the House Fiscal Agency, but I don't have that number right here for you.
Yeah, I think we're down to between 1.3 and 1.4.
Okay.
It was 1.5 pre-COVID.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of stunning. I mean, and thankfully, I mean, our numbers here in this district fairly steady. I mean, they wiggle around a little bit, but fairly steady.
We're coming up on account day again here soon. Right after the budget hearing. Any other questions? Thank you.
Good report, thank you,
Thanks,
Paul.
Paul.
Okay, we'll move to board education, final presentation of monitoring report 1.1, academic success.
Thank you again, President Van Antwerp. coming around now. Dr. Kelly Gensini is providing the board with an updated monitoring report presentation. We made a few modifications prior to the meeting. And then we also updated a couple of pages in your summary that she's now providing for you. He and Dr. Pascal are going to kind of tag team together on the presentation. As the board may recall, and Tracy, the board may recall, we break these monitoring reports up into 3 segments. Dr. Pascal did a secondary segment back in December. Dr. Gensini did an elementary segment at our last board meeting. And now here comes our summary report with an updated monitoring report presentation, as well as we modified a couple of pages.
All right, good evening, Superintendent and trustees. Like Superintendent Edwards just said tonight, we'll present on the final summary for 1.1. These are the things that we'll cover: similar schools comparison for percent proficient and percent proficient improvement. And then for PPS schools only, we'll look at growth. And then we'll look at how low achieving non-proficient students did in terms of student growth as well. I know Kelly presented that for elementary when we were requested to put that in. By the time I had did middle and high school, it wasn't there in terms of a request, so we've added it as an overall in here as well. You guys are familiar with the criteria in which we selected similar schools. Main focus was on total enrollment as well as economically disadvantaged compared to how we did it before 2 years ago for about a decade or more around comparator districts. So the first one, we look at how Michigan's average results are compared to PPS. By looking at this, you can see that PPS continues to outperform the state in both ELA and math. At least for here, you're looking at a 4-year projection. For 2024-25, fifth grade ELA and math proficiency rates were 11%, 7.8%, greater than the state's average. Eighth grade ELA and math proficiencies were around 12 and 14%, and then 11th grade ELA and math were 20% and 18.8% greater than the state's average. So the point here is the difference between PPS proficiency and the state increases as students progress through our system, and you can see that comparison. If you look back from elementary, 11.2 and 7 to high school, the gap was 20% and 18% greater. So looking favorable as we look at our comparison to the state, which we should. When comparing 24-25 state assessment results to the previous 3 years, which is 22 to 24 is that 3-year average. There's an increase in proficiency compared to the 3-year average in fifth grade. So you can see an increase of 2.7%, 11th grade ELA at 2.6%, and then 2.7% for 11th grade math. We decreased relative to the 3-year average in fifth grade ELA, 8th grade ELA, and 8th grade math. All right, this next summary looks at how each of our schools rank among its 10 similar schools in percent proficient on the spring 2025 state assessment. So we look at fifth grade MSTEP, we look at 8th grade PSAT 8, and we look at SAT for our high schools. We have a pretty high threshold here, so I want to put that out there before I go through this data. Essentially, if you're not in the top 3, we don't meet expectations. So that's how these next couple slides will go. You'll see those that meet expectations in blue, those that are below expectations are in red. So when you look at just percent proficiency, we only had 1 out of 13 schools meeting expectations in terms of percent proficient in their similar schools list. All right, this next one is the percent proficient improvement summary. So again, it looks at spring 2025 compared to the previous 3-year average, again for 5th and 8th and 11th. Schools ranking in the top 3 again meet, those that don't are below. So overall, we had 3 of 13 schools that met expectations in ELA. Can't really see it on,
Yeah, I don't know
yeah, I don't know what's going on. And then 4 of 13 schools met expectations in math. All right, now we move on to growth summary. So looking at our student growth on the spring 2025 state assessment. Again, that's determined by the percent of PPS students with an SGP of at least 30. That's divided by my school data with average growth as SGPs from 30 to 69 and above average from 70 to 99. So we want our schools with 70% or more of our students having an average or above average growth. Consider at expectations and are shown in green on here, and with less than 70% having would be below average, shown in red. So overall, we have 9 to 13 schools at expectations in ELA and 7 to 13 schools at expectations in math. And then finally, we'll kind of summarize the low achieving non-proficient growth summary. So again, we've been asked to add this to this year's report. We haven't looked at this in the past. This is kind of new data. So we look at students that were considered non-proficient in their previous assessment, whether that was M-STEP or College Board. And then we look at their SGP as they took the next assessment to see, are they growing to those that were proficient? And so we extracted data from students whose performance was considered non-proficient to examine their student growth from the previous state assessment. Evidence of annual academic growth is interpreted by the percent of PPS students who have an SGP, again, of 30th to 69th percentile or 70th to 99th, which is either average growth or above average growth, as defined by my school data. And so you look at, those are percentages of how they did. So all PPS schools were within the average growth range for ELA and math. So hopefully that answers the question behind how our low achieving or non-proficient students do in terms of like proficiency, and then looking at them in terms of how well they're growing, and as a favorable result, they're still growing over time. All right, so that's kind of the summary of data, all that you've heard in the previous presentation, but more importantly, it's, you know, you saw some, there's a high bar. You saw some positive, but you see a lot of red up there in terms of lots of work to do, and we understand that. We're a team, just like all of our teachers and our educators and our leaders, that have a sense of urgency. People are working hard every single day. By looking at the data, no one gets discouraged, and we continue on our path. And so I want to bring up Dr. Tracy Gerstheimer to talk about, you know, what are we doing about the data? What does it look like specifically for math and ELA? What are the things that we're staying the course, and if there's anything that maybe we've tweaked along the way that we identified as not working, and how that brought us maybe in a different direction. So anything you have to say about that, Tracy, you're more than welcome, okay?
I have a lot to say about it. So if you're looking at the graphic there on the slide, that kind of illuminates the key steps of our process, right? So our implementation science tells us that when systems are aligned, we can move students forward. Those efforts can't be moved forward if we're all working in different directions. So that is why our work is very much focused on these structures. So if we're looking at professional learning and its alignment to the curriculum, we're looking at our curriculum review cycles, our curriculum meeting student needs, our students being successful with that curriculum. We also are embedding test prep, M-STEP prep plans, SAT prep plans. We also renewed our focus on our professional learning communities for teachers this year so they can look at instructional data in real time along the way. So we're not only looking at SAT or M-STEP, a big assessment, but what's happening at the end of Unit 1, Unit 2. How might I go back and intervene if a student is still struggling in those pieces? And then finally, the last sort of graphic on there is about coaching. And so we have coaches at our elementary working on reading strategies in math and collaborative teaching and learning. And we have coaches at our middle school and high school focused on ELA and math as well to support new teachers and teachers with new curriculum and just helping teachers implement these new strategies. If you kind of go, there's a next, I have the clicker. There we go, there, okay. So there's sort of 5 big levers that we want to pull when we're talking about student outcomes. So let's talk first about ELA and math proficiency. Well, you must look first at your curriculum to see if it's aligned to the standards. Then you have to look to see, are teachers teaching that curriculum that's aligned to the standards? If they aren't, why? Is it because they've made adjustments based on needs? What are those needs? Do we need to adjust that within our curriculum? That involves that ongoing coaching and training for teachers. So building that shared understanding around the curriculum, alignment, and instructional practices is also something we have to build with our leaders. So not every principal is an expert in every content area, right? I mean, that would be really fantastic if they were. And so, like, for example, in this area, we spent a lot of time last year with our principals on math. And we visited every secondary math teacher's classroom and collected some baseline data. What did we see that aligned with the 8 mathematical practices that we know help students learn math? And we did that because we wanted them to understand what they would be looking for when they went to that classroom. I wasn't a math teacher. I have expertise in some areas, but we have to build that capacity in our leaders as well. So that's very much part of our process and part of what we will continue to do throughout this year and beyond. Looking at communicating clear expectations for all tiers of instruction. So tier 1 instruction, right? Like clear expectations for students, clear expectations around collaborative learning, basic practices that we know will support all learners in a classroom, regardless of where they are on the continuum. And then finally, PLCs, which I talked about a little bit, but PLCs can really work if teachers are focusing on instruction. So if they are looking at data, how did students perform? So a great example of that is some of our formative assessments that we're doing in ELA right now, where they're all writing on a common task and then collaboratively looking at that data together to identify what are some of the students' strengths in writing? What are some of the areas that we need to work on or go back and maybe fuse that in earlier because they missed it in a prior grade? That kind of work is so important. So I wanted to kind of highlight, you have a long document with a lot of information on it, but I kind of wanted to highlight, like in ELA, we have full implementation of our new curriculum K-9. In grade 10, we're early adopting this year. So we have daily integrated literacy instruction. It's consistent K-9, supported by common assessments, where we can look at that formative data, coaching, letters, and PD. These systems will strengthen instructional practice over time, and we will get meaningful gains as we reach full fidelity of implementation. In math, we have the same implementation framework. So we have our curriculum review cycle. We are intentionally piloting 3 resources that our CRC team selected. Right now, secondary is piloting Envision. They will, in the fall, pilot Amplify and then Imagine. And when I say pilot, I want to tell you that at the secondary level, every teacher is involved in the pilot. This is very unusual. Typically, it's a small committee of teachers who were chosen to represent, who pilot that resource and test it. We have chosen at the secondary level to do it with every teacher piloting in some capacity, those resources. Along that way, we will build our principal capacity with that. So we will have, coming up soon in a couple of weeks, our principals visit the teachers that are doing Envision, so we can see, what does Envision look like? How is this different from Big Ideas, our current curriculum at the secondary level? How does this resource make it easier for the teacher to do their job? Because what we want is a resource that will help teachers and provide, differentiation capabilities, online resources, parent connections, all these things. So they'll see what's happening. Elementary, which I didn't mention, is currently piloting Imagine, and in the fall we'll pilot Amplify. And so everybody's involved in testing out these resources in some way. At the secondary level, everyone who's piloting is also receiving coaching through K-RESA. Laura Cleesby, our middle school coach, who works with our middle school teachers primarily and is dabbling in high school a little bit as time allows. And then at elementary, we support that through other instructional coaching efforts as well. I wanted to talk about the long game a little bit. The long game is hard to play, right? I have worked in a district before. Some of you know I worked in Texas for a long time, where we did drill and kill. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Where you taught to the test, and you taught the kids every day. You did practice tests. You reviewed the answers, right? You told them which was the correct one. You taught them that specific problem, if it was math, or how to write that short answer for that test. And you know what? If you do that, your scores will improve, right? They will, in the short term. But we're playing the long game, right? And in the long game, we want to focus on some other things. Yes, absolutely, those things are important. They are very important. Certainly when we do that, like if we wanted to do that with M-STEP or with SAT, it would build familiarity with the test. It would help kids not be as stressed out maybe about the test. Those are all helpful, especially when you're really close to the test day. But I think there's a time and place for that type of work, and it doesn't, I believe, guide the work we do in CIA, in our department, and as a district, because we're playing this long game. And in the long game, we want to build people who are thinkers, who can read and write and defend their argument, who can organize their ideas and problem solve, because those skills outlast the SAT score or the M-STEP score or any of those things, right? That's the goal. The test alone doesn't define the work, but making sure they're ready to do whatever is next is really important to our department. And I always feel proud when I'm looking at the percentage of students who are placed who have to take a remedial course in college. It's very, very small for our district. It's about 45 kids. Now that could be better, right? I would love to see it be 0, because we can always improve. And I'm never satisfied with good enough. But I want them to be prepared for what they do after high school, right? And that to me is a metric that's important to look at. So I appreciate this urgency around the data and the scores. It's important. To me, it signals your belief in academics, which I think is also extremely important. And I think it creates momentum for us, which is important. But our goal is to build a system that will stay there beyond me, Kelly, Michael, and all of you, right? A system that will be in place that will keep graduating kids that are outperforming the state and that are growing, right? So no matter where we get them, like the very last data slide where it talked about students who are not meeting expectations, we get students who are reading far below grade level at the high school. And our objective is to add value. When they leave, we must grow them wherever they are. And in every single column on that slide, they were green. And I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of the work that our teachers do there, because that work is not easy. To have kids on grade level, below grade level, above grade level, sometimes all in the same room, right? If you can grow all of those students, that to me is a marker of success. And I think we will get there, but we can't focus on quick fixes. I never want to be a drill and kill. I never want to focus on tests, because I want to play the long game, but it's a hard game. It's a hard game to play.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Tracy.
appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
And as I hear Tracy talk, your packet could be this thick of things that we're trying to do. But I want to address Mark's question. When I was up here during the secondary presentation, he also brought up in the retreat today. What are the things that, maybe from both of you, maybe think of an example that maybe we went in a certain direction, we realized by going through our cycle, figuring out we weren't getting the ROI that we had intended, and then how did we change course, or did we just push it to the side and then move on to something different, or just eliminate it altogether? Is there any examples, like maybe from elementary or secondary, where we just didn't push forward with something that we knew just wasn't getting the gains or impact that we had initially intended?
I think I can speak a little bit about that around ELA. So prior to our new curriculum, we had created all kinds of phonics routines at the lower L, and because we were trying to get that consistency happening in all of our buildings, as well as we were using a program called Haggerty, and we were using it through, I believe, 2nd grade. Well, we switched to our new curriculum. What I'm proud of is sometimes you add things in and you forget to take things out. We did not, we took out the phonics routines, right? Because our new curriculum, 2 new curriculums, we had our systems, but also UFly. UFly covers and does that work better than our homegrown piece, and so has the research behind it, researchers creating it. So we implemented UFly, said thank you for your service, phonics routines, and all the people who created them over time, which we know was a ton of work. And then Haggerty, we listened to that research that came out that said, whoa, 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 this can't be your only thing that you do. And so we listened to that and adjusted based on what was coming at us. So we do take things out, right? When we're realizing like that's not it, we need to adjust to that. I don't know if you can give some secondary on the spot.
On the spot, there are a lot of subscriptions that we have at the secondary level, whether it's an e-textbook or like an online remediation platform. And whenever they come up for renewal now, we evaluate, are we getting the return on investment? How many students are using it or teachers are using it? How often? We survey them to see, is this something that you think we should buy? Why, right? To try to identify what will be used. Because we find sometimes that we have, like you said, we add something and don't take it off. We have lots of ornaments, so to speak, on our tree. And it can be overly decorated to carry that metaphor forward if we're not evaluating what is really useful.
And sometimes those programs are family favorites, right? Or people favorites. And it's hard to remove them out of there because it has served certain students or certain teachers well. And if we're looking for a long game and changing that and being consistent, those hard conversations have to happen, and we do make those moves.
Yeah, thanks for sharing those examples, Mark. Hopefully that helps give you some idea of some of the things that we've changed course on. I think we've got a lot of things in play, but as Johnny mentioned in the retreat, I'm helping lead facilitating a curriculum audit. And so that's a big effort that we're taking on. Everyone in this room, in terms of exec team or administrators, all have played a part. All of you have interview slots with the audit team. I'll send you those appointments in the morning, although I already know you have that time in mind. So from February 2nd to the 5th, 5 to 6 auditors will come down from the CMSI team. The Monday is all interviews with all of us at central office, a few board members, and then as well as the following day for some of the trustees as well. And then the Tuesday and Wednesday of that week, they're going through all of our buildings. Okay, so there might be 2 different walk teams at each. Our principals, our APs, maybe engagement specialists or reading specialists will help guide them into the rooms so that they have a familiar face, both from students and teachers, as they invite the visiting teams throughout those 2 days. And then Thursday's kind of a wrap-up day. We've been working on a shared curriculum drive, so I appreciate everyone's effort on that, particularly in this room. There's 5 indicators that they're looking at, and there was a ton of work to submit, and even Barb has helped do some things around policy governance and some board-related stuff that they want to look at. So I think we're going to get a lot out of that. There's going to be things that we haven't talked about today. There may be things that we have maybe exposed ourselves, but we just haven't had something to back maybe a change or support us going in a different direction. Very similar to our facilities audit that we did in terms of safety and security. We realized that our entrances and vestibules was our most vulnerable spot in our district, and we were inconsistent on how we were welcoming people into our facilities. And we made a big change, and that executive summary really helped. So we're looking at the curriculum audit to do the same thing. Maybe there'll be a few things that we could really tackle to help us improve in the upcoming years, and who knows, maybe impact some of the numbers that are in these reports moving forward. So we're looking forward to that, and just adding that to our continuous improvement efforts. So I thought I'd mention that because that is a big effort that's going to take place, and I'm sure Superintendent Edwards will share that executive summary once we get that month down the road. Questions or comments? There's a lot, but Mary Lou?
I just have a question. It's great that all the math teachers are piloting the new curriculum. That's been pretty exciting. Can you describe what's going to happen after the pilot? How are those conversations going to happen? who's gonna lead those, you know, all that kind of stuff.
You mean how are we collecting their data or their feedback, or?
And how are you guys meeting to discuss?
Okay,
you
yep.
know,
So throughout the pilots, we have check-ins. We have those all scheduled. They typically are taking place during the department meetings. And right now, the vendor will be present at those. We also have a Q&A document that is live that a teacher can post anytime that the vendor is expected, and I'm watching, to answer their question as soon as they post it, within 24 hours, within reason, right? And then we have drafted a survey that we will have students take after each pilot. So we will have staff, families, and students take the survey. So the teachers have all seen this survey and reviewed it. I think we've reviewed the draft 3 times. And when the pilot concludes, we will have all the students take the survey as well as staff, and then also send it out to families and then collect that data. And we'll do that same method for each of the pilots. Along the way, whenever we have a PD day, that has been really focused on implementing the new curriculum. So typically those are vendor-led, or we have support from KRESA on, okay, now we know what the resource is, how are we going to organize the content a little differently? Because as you know, Mary Lou, like, every vendor organizes their units a little differently, and they don't always line up exactly. So there is some finesse to that. So Algebra 2 doesn't line up exactly. And so teachers have to kind of maneuver some of the units a little bit to make sure that students have skills they know they need for the next course. Yep, so we've got, I meet every 2 weeks, more or less, with the math leaders, the 3 team leaders, and just check in with them as well. Like, what's going on? What do you need? Here's what's happening. Here's when the trainings are scheduled. So we have everything scheduled and planned out for Amplify and Imagine through February of next year. Yep.
Can you help me? I don't understand with like when you say you're doing a walkthrough or the snapshot of a teacher's classroom, and I've classrooms, but just from an administrator popping in for a few minutes to, what do you collect from that short amount of time?
Yeah.
How does that turn around and help a teacher? Because you could be having a crazy moment in class when you guys walk in, and that's, how does that benefit the teacher? Or does a teacher sit in with another teacher, or is that ever happening? Or I guess if you could just fill me in on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, there are lots of different ways in which we observe teachers. So in the context of what I described, the learning walks, it was done primarily to build principal capacity in math. So we had a rubric that identified the 8 mathematical practices, and we looked exclusively at those 8 practices. So for example, one of those is math discourse. So very simply, if I'm sitting next to Kelly and I say, what did you get for number 3? And she says, I got 9, and I say, I got 6. That is not math discourse, right? That is checking our answers. And so what we're looking for is, are you having a discussion with one another about how did you solve the problem? What was your approach to the problem? Some more depth to that conversation there. And that's a little art form to do that, right? And some vendors provide a lot of resources for teachers to structure that, and some not as strong in that area. And so when we did that, we looked only at trends. We did not give individual data to teachers because we did not want them to feel like they were being evaluated. And only the folks that had been part of CRC had had a lot of in-depth training on math discourse and had seen model lessons and had read about it and were trying it out with coaching support and with KRESA support. So we did it only to look at trends, to see like, where do we see discourse happening, and when we see it, what does it look like? Another practice is, collaborative learning. When we see students group together, what do we see them do? Often, they're just sitting next to each other, right, but they're not actually talking about the content. It doesn't matter if it's math or ELA. And there's a lot of reasons I could explain that, right? But what we want them to do is to talk about something related to the content and use the academic vocabulary of that content, right? So those are things when we do that, we know, okay, these are areas for professional development. These are areas for coaching. That's how we use the learning walks. With teachers, the primary method that we work on that is through coaching and through PD. So if we know through our observations that a teacher needs help with discourse, then that teacher might be encouraged to seek the coach, to maybe pair up with Laura Cleesby, who will help demo lessons or co-plan ideas or try them out with them.
Team next, yeah, teach with them.
Yeah.
Model
Yeah.
lessons.
Yeah, because, you know, sometimes it's just practicing of the skills and having to see it that helps you get better at it. I hope that answers.
I heard you say something during the main part, and then it was reiterated, and I want to highlight that. That many students come to us or to an individual classroom with what we would refer to as low proficiency, or the term learning gaps, where they don't have that. And that's where the growth is so important. And that chart that had growth with everything green was a testament to that and to the educators who are doing the hard work of getting students who may not be easy to work with because of the number of gaps. And they're filling those gaps so that those students can now be proficient in the future or a lot closer to it, so that in a future year they get to that point. And I think that's really important because I want to highlight that this report, even with all the red that we saw, is truly a baseline. Yes, we've had years of Portage Public Schools behind us, but this is a first year for Johnny's leadership, and these are not his scores. And he's coming in and taking this, and he's going to fly, because we know you have, and you've done it before, and you're going to do it again, and I am excited about that, because this gives us that point to do that with. I want to say kudos to you, because we asked hard questions during the retreat, and it is obvious that you guys took it and on the fly went, we're going to answer these questions in a very short time. And you prepared information to do that. And making it clear that our goal is to take a district, which our district, that is pretty darn good, honestly. Even with colors that look the way they look, we have a really good district. And your goal and what our goal is really to make it great, to make it one of the best districts around, if not one that's known statewide as being the kind of district you want to move to. And thank you for taking the time to respond to us and respond to our questions the way we did, because we did not ask some easy questions. And and I appreciate you taking that time to do it, and I know that that's going to continue. And I'm looking forward to next year where we get this again and we get to see some of those things taking effect, taking greater effect. Not that we've done it wrong in the past, but when you change things, you see things that might, as you said, that you didn't realize were there, and you're able to make corrections, and that only makes us better.
I'll speak for a lot of our admin team. We're at our best when we're professionally challenged, so we appreciate the push, but also the encouragement. I think there's a very healthy relationship between our team and the board, and the superintendent and the board, and I think collectively that's only going to help us improve as the years go on. So we appreciate those questions and in the way in which we do it. It's a healthy conversation in the retreats and even in the board presentations, so we appreciate your support and we look forward to that continued relationship.
Job is to ask the hard questions, and I appreciate your willingness to allow us to do so in the spirit of growth and encouragement, because we're not trying to be malicious in any way.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Kimberly. Well, what's on your mind? You got
Well, no, I appreciate you saying that. And we've, yes, had a thing over the years on, right. I'm going to piggyback on Kimberly. And So I really appreciated the retreat today, and we got down to brass tacks and just talking about this stuff and talking about expectations. And you look at, and this is the most important presentation we get all year. Let's just understand that, how kids are doing in school. A lot of green up there, we should celebrate it. There's some red up there that we also ought to celebrate, because that red is there. And I want to clarify, that's not an expectation, that's a future expectation. And the board, I mean, we purposely decided to set the bar high and to be patient. And we want to be in balance with the administrative team. And I think I said this during Johnny's interview. I want them to feel pressure, but not debilitating pressure. And we need to keep having that conversation. I mean, we want to be respectful and supportive, but we have set it up so there's a lot of red there, and we're going to be patient and be supportive, and we are going to celebrate as those boxes turn green. And we have some years outlook on this, and this is hard work, and people are working hard, and people are working smart, and we want to be thankful about that, and go back to, hey, the bar is high. And every time a box turns green, we're going to celebrate that. And we're going to celebrate the boxes that are green now. So I just wanted to underscore that, and thanks for putting up with me on the retreat. and thanks for all your hard work. This is the most important presentation we get all year.
The amount of work that's going into already being, just improving and being done just amazes me. I am truly impressed.
Hey, and a quick comment about your anecdotes about stuff that you've tried and then pulled back. That's healthy. I mean, that's to be celebrated. You're going to have to try a lot of things, and you're going to try a lot of things that after 2 or 3 years, you're going to say, man, okay, we got to, and having the guts, the patience and the balance and the guts to pull back on some stuff and try new. So anyway, kudos for that.
And there is a lot of red up there, but I do want to say there's no teacher in this district that leaves the classroom at the end of the day and says, oh man, I wish I would have gave it a little more today. Because they are trying, and we have a wonderful instructional staff here in terms of our educators, and that's where the rubber meets the road. So I want to make sure that that point gets across, that we're very thankful for our teachers, and they're doing the best that they can every single day and giving it their all. And so
our leaders
we
in
truly
this
appreciate
building,
that.
right?
Yeah, and our administrators and support staff. That it's a collective effort. So we'll just continue to push. We'll continue to continually improve. And like I said, hopefully the audit comes out with a few things that really helps us moving forward. That will yield some gains in the future years as well. So it's a lot of good stuff going on. I don't want to lose sight of that. So thanks for your comments. We appreciate it.
I want to piggyback on one thing in here with these charts that you provided. This is a single snapshot of one point in time. And whether it's blue or red, it's just the number, and they're not even that far apart. So it's important for us to, anybody to realize that just because a number is this versus this isn't mean that there's this ginormous gap. There's really not. It's just how it happens because we've asked for a high bar.
And there's every single one of those similar schools lists has wonderful communities across the state in there. We're not measuring up against folks that are not alike Portage and the demographics in each of our schools. So it's very competitive too, but I appreciate you saying that, Emily, because in some of those instances, if we weren't 3, we were 1%, at 4. So
4% even.
And
I did some calculating, Emily. On one school, it was 6 students. Like if we had 6 more students meet expectations, right?
It's very close. And
Yeah.
we have a phenomenal plan moving forward about where we're going to get where we want to go. And we're so excited to see it.
I think the goal is just to chip away at it each time we come back as the years go on, is that we get more schools within that top 3 category, and we just grow as we go. So. Okay.
From something to be proud of to something truly amazing.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
I just want to say that I always learn something when you guys come up. I did not know about drill and kill.
Now you don't.
You can add that to your speech next year, Randy.
Yeah, or maybe I can apply it to my own life. I don't know. I just want to say that I appreciate all the reporting you've done and all your work, and I'm particularly impressed with the data on growth, because we all know proficiency is a lagging indicator to growth, and growth numbers look very good, which means, in my opinion, that you're winning the long game. So appreciate that data and all your work. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate that.
Okay, we're at our comments and communications section, and we have one speaker this evening. It's a musical presentation for Mr. Kozian.
I don't need to.
Well, thank you, Board. It's a pleasure to represent the Portage Education Association. Kat couldn't be here tonight, so I'm second best, so there we go. So we want to share some positive stories that are taking place throughout the district that our members are making happen in the classroom every day. First of all, I want to invite all of you to the Portage Northern High School Drama Department. They are going to present Shakespeare as you've never seen before in A Midsummer's Night Dream, and that runs from January 30th to February 8th in the Portage Northern High School auditorium. Don't miss it. At Central High School, the staff has been working very hard preparing Newsies. It opens soon and runs from February 6th to the 15th, and we hope to see you at that show as well. Our amazing art teacher at Northern High School, Sarah Knott, wants all of you to check out the awesome 6 through 12 Portage Public School visual art show taking place now through January 31st at the Portage District Library. Students from nearly every building in the district are represented in the exhibition. Come to see how vibrant our visual arts programs are across the district. Our Spanish teacher at West Middle School, Susan Smith, worked with her students this semester in preparing for their Spanish midterm by writing their own stories, sharing original ideas in a second language. It has been inspiring for Mrs. Smith to hear students express themselves confidently and creatively as they build fluency and pride in Spanish. A key part of our curriculum focused on major cultural events from Spanish-speaking countries, each teaching enduring values, such as the San Silvestre race, which taught endurance, running of the bulls, which is courage, the human towers, which builds community, bullfighting, which is cultural heritage, the Day of the Dead, remembrance and strength, and the Panama Canal, global connection. Mrs. Julie Stevenson at Mooresbridge Elementary worked with two of our West Middle School teachers, Mrs. Howe and Mrs. McDaniel, 6th grade ELA in science. They came together for a meaningful cross-curricular experience as students shared books they created for their first grade buddies from Mooresbridge Elementary. The big students at West came to Mooresbridge at the beginning of the semester to interview and get to know their first grade friends. They took notes and found out some of their interests to help plan and create a book just for them. The end result included reading, discussing scientific and literacy concepts, and engaging in thoughtful conversation. It was so great to see these students engaged across grade levels and connected as learners and leaders. Our first graders at Mooresbridge were beaming as they listened, asked questions, and connected with their older buddies, an experience that made the learning come alive. Our first graders could not wait to take these treasures home. Lori Arnold at Angling Road Elementary wants to recognize Penny Russell. She's the reading specialist at Angling Road, as she has stepped in multiple times to sub in classrooms in the building this year when they've been unable to find subs. She willingly sacrifices her long to-do list to help in this way. Thank you, Penny. Kat Frank wants to recognize a former colleague at Central High School who is a recent retiree and is an amazingly strong human working through a recent diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's. Colleagues pulled together here at Central some yearbooks and other PC gifts to keep him thinking about the staff here at Central, which is good for his health and our happiness. What an awesome community to be a part of. Timmery Fuller over at Central Elementary School was very excited this week, or last week, I think, about the middle of the year data meetings. Their first meeting went very well. Their second grade teachers came prepared, ready to dig into data, notice strengths and areas of growth, and walked away with intentional plans to help all kids improve their reading. The rest of the meetings, they expect to go the same. Marcia Moore at Angling Road wants to recognize our physical education teacher, Blake Schuster, who organized the first annual cup stacking competition for students and staff. Mr. Shu has worked with the kids over the past several weeks, starting prior to winter break, to teach them the rules and give them lots of opportunities to practice and improve their times. The 3 fastest students in grades 3 through 5 and the 3 fastest staff members received rewards. The event was live streamed so families could watch at home. The students then watched at school, had a blast, cheering for all of their competitors. Everyone is already excited to compete again next year. I want to recognize West Middle School student Peter, who was recently invited to perform at the Michigan School Band and Orchestra Association All-State Band. He performed in Grand Rapids this past weekend. Peter's an 8th grader who plays euphonium, and it's a huge honor to be a member of the All-State Band. And if you're all bored tomorrow night, come out to Texas Roadhouse over in front of Sam's Club. We're doing a fundraiser for the West Middle School Band and the 8th grade orchestra, as we have about 145 students going to Mackinac Island coming up in May. Every dollar helps our students. And if you are bored between 3 and 8 tomorrow, come out and help. Order lots of food and mention West Middle School bands and 8th grade orchestra. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your report. Thanks for coming. Are there any comments from board trustees this evening?
I love that there is a cup stacking competition. I remember when that was first a thing for my son, who hasn't been in elementary school now for 20 years. So it was, yeah, and everybody brought their little cup sets and they did that. I'm sure we still have it at home somewhere, but that is a cool thing. Thanks.
Just want to ask real quickly if we can get a copy of that or somehow.
Yes,
You got it?
please.
Okay. I just want to thank my colleagues for the extra hours. Johnny, thank you for your time and your staff's time. I most spent talking about the most important thing.
Thank you. Well, anyone else? Okay, we will move to our consent agenda on page 8. We have 4 items tonight. The first is approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2026 organizational meeting, committee of the whole work session. Numbers 2 through 4 are all items that we reviewed at our meeting on January 12th. The first is to approve as presented the awarded contract with Veritas Telecommunications Corporation for the purpose of replacing and burying fiber optic cabling that connects all Portage Public School buildings for a total project cost of $433,654.52. The funds for which will come from the 2025 bond fund, the 3rd series from the 2021 vote. Our next item is to approve as presented the awarded contract with FiberLink Incorporated for the purpose of installing supplemental fiber optic cabling at the Portage Central High and Northern High outdoor athletic facilities for a total project cost of $26,547.86. The funds for which will come from the 2025 bond fund, the 3rd series from the 2021 vote. And finally, to approve the 2026-27 programs of study for our elementary, middle, and high schools as presented. Are there any exceptions to the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. And we need to now go to page 35. No.
It is 35.
Yeah, it is page 35. Yes, to approve monitoring report 1.1. Is there a motion, please?
President Van Antwerp, I move that the Board of Education accept as presented the monitoring report on 1.1 global ends as a reasonable interpretation and evidence of compliance with policy.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes, and the monitoring report is approved. Our next stop is on page 50 to approve bank depositories. Is there a motion, please?
All right, Mr. President. I move that the Board of Education designate the following depositories for school funds as presented. Comp 1, Flagstar Bank, First National Bank, Horizon Bank, Huntington Bank, Independent Bank, JP Morgan Chase, Macatawa Bank, Mercantile Bank, Michigan Class, PFM Investment Management, and Southern Bank and Trust.
Thank you, Bo. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The bank depositories are approved. We added a second action item, and that's to designate safety deposit boxes. There's a, the memo and the motion is at your place. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education designate Comerica Bank located at 7941 Southwest Niche, Portage, Michigan 49002 to be as a depository for safety deposit boxes. Superintendent Johnny Edwards, Assistant Superintendent of Operations Russell Gerbers, Director of Finance Paula Johnson, Director of Finance, and Secretary Terry Novaria are designated persons authorized to access the safety deposit boxes.
Thank you, Bo. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the safety deposit box, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And our last item on our agenda tonight is a discussion item, and Russ is going to lead us through that. Generator purchase.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent Edwards. One of our small projects we'd like to accomplish this summer would be adding a generator to West Middle School to service the food service department in terms of their freezer and refrigerator, as well as some life safety equipment in the building. This is actually broken up into two categories: the actual purchase of the generator itself, which is what we're asking for tonight because of the lead time to get it in so we can install it this summer. Then I'll be coming to you at a later date with the approval for the actual install of the generator. We kind of broke it apart so we had time to get the generator on order. We're working with Tower Pinkster, who did all the design of the electrical system, the upgrades to the electric system to make this happen, and then OAK is going to manage the project. So we're looking at you guys to approve the purchase of the generator, if possible, tonight, for a total of $89,300 for the generator. Those funds, because it is servicing the food service department, will come from the lunch fund excess fund balance. So the food service department will be covering the cost of the generator, and then they'll also cover some of the costs of the installation when we get that price in, and then the rest of the installation will come from building and site sinking fund. Is there any questions?
I just think it's a good idea to make sure we have a way to save food if power goes out.
I thank Susan for more equipment. We appreciate that. Are we okay with moving this forward?
Sure.
Okay, there's a motion to move it to action on page 53.
Mr. President, I recommend to move the generator purchase discussion item to action.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. It's now an action item, and we need a motion, please.
Mr. President, I move that Owen Ames Kimball Company be authorized to issue a notice of pending award, the amount indicated to the contractor supplier listed below, pending confirmation that all requirements of the contract documents have been met. Furthermore, upon receipt by Owen Ames Kimball Company of the appropriate documentation, contract in the amount of $89,300 be awarded by Portage Public Schools to High Tech Electric Company for the purchase of a generator and related equipment for West Middle School, the funds for which will come from the lunch fund excess fund balance.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the generator purchase, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes and generator's on the way. Thank you. We've reached the end of our agenda. I need your board self-assessment for the 2 meetings and the monitoring report evaluation. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, God.